Number one is to put yourself on video as much as you possibly can. I know for some people, this is really unappealing. I know some people are not so comfortable on video. A lot of people are very self-conscious. I'm really used to it and I don't care. So for me, it's not a problem. But let me tell you guys something. If you are feeling self-conscious about your wrinkles or your hair, whatever, your students do not care. They really don't care what you look like. However, one thing that they do care about is maintaining a personal connection. And while a video is nowhere near the same thing as speaking to somebody in person, it is so much better than a typed comment from you that is not going to have any of the nuances of your voice. So I would say if you can stand putting yourself on video, I think that makes a really, really big difference. And here's how I know it's going to work. I know because a lot of you guys who watch me here have never met me in person before, and yet I feel that I have a very strong rapport with the art prof family, and I think that some of you guys know me pretty well. And if you are a brick and mortar teacher and you're going to transition into a remote classroom, that's actually a lot easier because your students already know you. And I think what happens if you are a teacher in your brick and mortar classroom and your students are used to talking with you and interacting with you, and all of a sudden you turn into typed comments, that I think is a lot harder to deal with. Plus, have you guys ever had to type out a critique? It is so slow. And number one, I don't write as much. I do not think I communicate it as effectively as I speak it on video. And so I know video is not that appealing to some people, but there are a lot of options out there, which I'm going to give to you right now, which have very, very little setup and are really, really easy to do. Wow, we got some great activity in the chat. Hello, Eloise, Christina, Lauren, 10,000 Crows, and Lahona. I would like to know, those of you who are watching, are any of you art teachers or professors teaching studio art? And if you are, tell me where you're teaching and what age group you're teaching. Oh, hey, Eric from RISD. Thanks for joining our stream. Awesome. All right. And Eloise and Lauren, who are in the chat right now, they are teaching artists at Art Prof. They've been doing this along with me this whole time. So please feel free to ask them questions as well. Okay. So what I would say, get yourself on video. And live video is so fast and easy. Once you have it set up, it's really not difficult, because when I first started Art Prof, I had this ridiculous idea that every single video I produced was going to be perfectly edited, and we'd do sound mixes and we would make everything all perfect. First of all, it took forever. I mean, forever and ever and ever. I mean, part of it was that I was really bad at editing at the time. I'm a lot better now. But with live video, not only do you have the ease of just clicking start stream and just talking, but you have the interaction. Your students can watch the lecture, they can jump into the chat, they can ask questions. I've had some really, really great comments from people in the chat. People are very thoughtful. And if you already know your students, then that's going to be even easier. So I would say, teachers, if you want to do video, which I think you should, do live. Don't try to shoot something, edit it. That is not worth your time. Because here's the thing, you guys. You are not going to build a gigantic online platform and classroom right away. You just will not. And I think that for that reason, the more important thing is that you get out the content fast. It's quick and dirty and sloppy, but no one's going to care. Because I used to be very uptight about how the video looked and I wanted perfect lighting and everything. And now I'm realizing from doing my own streams and watching other people's streams that nobody cares. Actually, the more important part is the audio. If you have good audio, the video almost doesn't matter. So prioritize the audio part. That really, really helps. Oh, wow, we got some teachers in here. So EM teaches fundamentals of design in Virginia, and Yvonne teaches painting and drawing at Western Kentucky University. And Eloise is saying, what sophomore platforms for live video? I'm going to get right into that right now. Okay, so there, I think the two best options for live video I think Instagram Live is the quickest one to set up because it literally is no setup. Like you just go to your stories and you hit live and then you tap something that says start live and then boom, you're live. It's really, really easy. You don't have to set up anything. So I would say if you do not want to be bothered with something that's more intricate than that, do Instagram Live. The only issue with Instagram Live is that the stream does disappear after 24 hours. And so if you want this video to be available for people after that, you might consider YouTube. Although, does anybody know in the chat, can you save a live video to your Instagram highlights? I've never done that before, but I'm sort of guessing you probably can. Somebody look that up and see if that is the case, because then that is a way to archive your video. But what I like about Instagram Live is there's no setup and you don't have to install any software. You don't have to do anything that complicated. Oh, wow, we got a lot of art teachers in here. Elisa owns San Diego Art Loft. And let's see, Marina's saying, is art or design really needed during a recession or pandemic? Or corporate companies or public in general still need of these services? Well, I can tell you, Marina, that right now, a lot of the art teachers and professors are, first of all, school is getting canceled. Like RISD, where I teach, we are not having classes after next Friday. So after we go to spring break, we are moving entirely remotely. And so this is a very particular audience that we're catering to right now, which is our classes. Like my RISD class, I have to now reformat everything and translate it into an online format. So I know a lot of you guys watching here are not in my class, obviously, but I think that some of this can serve you guys as well. Okay, let's see. Eloise is saying you can add stories to your highlights, but can you add a live video? Like, I'm not sure if you can do that. And Puck Puck teaches and owns a I can't pronounce that. Anyway, Delu, I don't know how to say that. Anyway, guys, use Instagram Live. Now, if you really want something that's a little bit more permanent and more video based, where you can control things a little bit more, YouTube Live really is worth it. Okay, it is a bigger commitment because you have to download OBS, which is a streaming software. It's free. It's really easy to use. And you have to get your API key so that way you link your OBS software into your YouTube channel. But what I like about YouTube Live is that number one, it stays on your channel. I mean, you can get rid of it if you don't like it. But the other thing is that you can add visuals, because on Instagram Live, basically the only visual is whatever you point your phone at. So if you point your phone at yourself, or maybe you're doing a demo with your hands, you can do that. But what's really cool about YouTube Live is you can load slides. I mean, Eloise and I did a critique yesterday of a short film, and we were like playing a film during it. So you just have a lot more options with YouTube Live. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now is I prepared all these slides, I put them into OBS, and so there's a lot of things that you can do in YouTube Live that you cannot do for Instagram Live. Instagram Live is like, if you just want to check in with your students. In fact, I might even do my weekly office hours on Instagram Live. I'm not sure. I have to think that through a little bit. I haven't really had a lot of time to do that. Let's see. Christina's saying people who know what they are talking about and can succinctly verbalize what they're teaching. Yep, important. And Pennington Arts is saying there are many benefits to digital art teaching, but for me, I need someone to tell me what I'm doing wrong right after I've done it so I know how to correct it. Yeah, I mean, what I'm doing with my students at RISD is I'm not just live streaming. Like, we're actually going to have group video calls and stuff like that. So I'm going to get to that in a minute, because I can't run my RISD classroom the way I run Art Prof. It's not the same thing because the students have homework assignments. I have to grade them. We have to do weekly critiques. And so it's a completely different world in that way, even though the delivery, I think, can be very different. Jake is asking, how many years of experience do you think you need to start teaching? I've been acrylic painting for 5 years. Jake, I would say it really depends on what age group you want to teach, because if you want to teach high school, you probably will not find a high school position that is only painting. Most high school teachers I know teach a general art class, or for example, they teach drawing and painting. You have to go to a pretty fancy school to offer just like only painting teacher position. But if you want to teach college, you have to have an MFA. It's a little bit more involved. So a lot more information there. Maybe we'll do a stream on that because that's a whole other can of worms. Okay, let's see. Let's go on to the next tip. And I would say, if you can't get over the wrinkles in your neck, do an audio recording. I don't think it's as good as a live video because there's something about the face-to-face connection that really, I think, is going to keep that personal connection with your students alive. Because at least for me, what I think is really bumming me out big time is that I've only seen the students this semester, like, 5 times? Maybe not even. And so I am just starting to get to know them. I don't feel that I know them that well yet. Usually by, like, I don't know, the 8th or 9th week, I feel like I start to know them, but I don't really know them that well. And so for me, if I pivot to typed comments and that's all they hear from me again, it's not going to be a way for me to foster that relationship. And so I feel like the relationship right now I have with my students, it feels a little fragile because it's not very well established. And so I would just say, try to do video, but if you really can't bring yourself to do it, consider an audio recording. Because even that, I think, is better than a typed comment. And also, audio is so easy to do because everybody has smartphones now, and you can just use the audio recorder in there. And I can just upload an audio recording directly into my Google Drive. I can get the link to that audio file. I can send it to the student. It's very easy. I know some people do use SoundCloud, and that's easy too because you can just upload it to SoundCloud. You can send the student a link. But because it's already in my phone and I use Google Drive all the time, I would just do it that way. So audio is better than a typed comment, but in my opinion, it's not as strong of a connection with your students as a live video actually is. Puck Puck is saying, you ever worry about people downloading and copying your lesson plans for their own curriculum? I mean, I suppose I could worry about it, but the thing is, it's sort of the same thing as worrying about people stealing your artwork. I mean, I've seen my artwork all over the place. Like, people always seem to have this desire to, like, put a poem over my artwork. I'm like, really? I don't know that that makes it a lot better. And so I guess the only way that you could really prevent that is just to never post anything online. And at least to this point, it has not been a problem for me, but maybe at some point, hopefully that is not the case. And Lunja is saying, face-to-face communication engages the human brain, the most fundamental level, allows for much more projection from the materials in the unconscious, can confirm by borderline personality tendency. Okay, wow, that's a great take. SK is saying, I have a class coming up, had to cancel due to coronavirus. The age group is 8 to 10. I'm seriously thinking of doing it live, but I've never done it. You know what, SK? Just do it. You're going to mess it up. That's fine. Do you guys have any idea how many messed up streams I did before I got the hang of it? But the thing is, the more you do it, the more it's going to get easier, and your students are going to get it, okay? They know that we are scrambling to get things ready for them. I mean, my college students are in really difficult situations right now. A lot of them are having to leave campus. Some of them are international students. And so honestly, they are not going to care if you are like a little bit behind in terms of the technology. Okay, Pennington is saying, no idea if you know anything. What art colleges teach classical painting? Most of them teach more contemporary stuff. I think Boston University still has a pretty traditional program. And I feel like I'm forgetting about another one that's super obvious, but I can't remember. I'll see if I can remember later on. Okay, so let's talk about tip number 2. And that is, if you schedule a group video call or you have an assignment that you need the students to turn in online, send them reminders. Now, normally the professor part of me hates doing that because I'm like, they're adults. They should be able to figure this out. Obviously, it's different if you're teaching high school, middle school. It's not quite the same thing. But I think that the reminders are really helpful because the students are not getting that, like, you breathing down their neck in the classroom. And so it just, when they get a message that's like, this is due, I don't think that it sticks quite as well. And so here's an example. So you guys know we stream every night here at Art Prof at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And so if I am doing a live stream with Eloise, who's in the chat right now, do you guys know how many reminders? I send Eloise 3 text messages. I will text Eloise in the morning. I will text Eloise at 9:15. I will then Skype Eloise at 9:45. So for one appointment, there are 3 reminders. Now, granted, this is not quite the same thing because this is art prof and we have accountability and we have to get that stuff done. But it is not ridiculous to send your students reminders. You probably don't need to send them 3 in one day, but you should send them a reminder. I think that's a really good idea. Let's see. Adult hay, says Faux Turkey. Yeah, but it's still, I think that here's the thing. Okay, I talked to my students at Artsy today, and normally I have no mercy on my students. Ask Lauren. She can tell you a lot of stories about how I run my classroom. But the thing is, you guys, this is a very exceptional situation. And I think a lot of people don't really know what to do next. And it's very confusing. And we're all making it up as we go along. And so I said to the students at Artsy today, I'm like, guys, you know what you're getting today? You're getting like the bizarro Clara. like this is not the normal Clara. You're getting bizarro Clara. And so I am doing all these things that I normally would never do. I normally would never be this accommodating in a brick and mortar classroom, but I recognize these challenges we have. And if I can just do a little bit more to make things easier because things are already as hard as they are, that's okay with me this time because of the exceptional circumstances. Diamond Cat is saying, try to set teachers' worries at ease. Students will definitely understand. School just closed for me for 3 weeks. We all understand this is sudden. Right, exactly. It's not like they showed up on September on a normal school year and, oh my God, you had nothing ready. They know what's going on. So I think that we should not stress about that type of thing. Now, another thing, if you do set a deadline, let's say, okay, I want a photo of this drawing and I want it in Google Drive. Don't tell them it's due Friday, April 30th. Tell them it's due Friday, April 30th at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have to be specific. Now, here's where it gets very complicated because at RISD, I have a lot of international students. I mean, some of them live on the total other side of the planet, and so they're not in the same time zone. And so that's another reason that's important because it's really hard to keep track of what day it is in Dubai if you're in the US. And so what I am planning on doing with my RISD students is I will tell them, okay, well in advance, I'll say, okay, I'm always going to tell you at least a week in advance, this is when it's due. You have to be on top of it. And this is the time that it's due. And I think it's better to make the time late in the day because you don't know what any of these students are dealing with. Maybe they have a lot of responsibilities at home. Maybe they're a caretaker. Maybe they're working during the day. And so I don't think it's fair to make the deadline like in the middle of the day. I also don't think it's good to do it in the morning because then it's like, it gives students a temptation to stay up all night. I don't think that's good either. So I sort of feel like maybe 11:30, something like that in the evenings would be fine. Let's see. Lauren's saying we all have busy schedules. It's hard to remember everything, especially in this time of chaos with things changing hourly. Exactly. And I normally do not do all these things for my students, but I am doing them now because I think, okay, here's what I noticed. So when I had class today, normally we just start with a critique and we just go at it, right? I didn't do that today. I sat down my students and we just talked. And I asked them, I said, how are you guys doing? What are your concerns? What are you worried about? Because you know something? There's a lot of activity on Facebook right now with lots of art educators, which is fantastic. I mean, we should all be there really giving everybody what they need. And I don't know if I'm making this assumption, but it seems to me, at least at the college level, that a lot of teachers aren't really directly asking the students what is going to serve them the best. And I'll tell you, that meeting I had with students today was so helpful because they fixed so many things for me that I thought were going to be fine. And they were like, no, that's not going to work so well. And so if you're a teacher and you're teaching, I would say high school and college, I would not do this with middle school. Talk to them about what is going to work best. Because as much as I would like to think I understand my students, I do not a lot of the time. A lot of it is just like a guessing game. Okay, by the way, you guys, if you did not know this, on our main site, we've got you covered for video tutorials and project ideas. We have so many prompts, drawing, painting, printmaking, bookmaking, film projects. We've got animation projects. And so if you're a teacher and you're looking for stuff, we've got it here at Art Prof. So we've got like painting tutorials. We also have a cat drawing tutorial, which, by the way, is great if you teach a figure drawing class and your students don't have access to a nude model. Some of them have to have cats. And if they don't have a cat, maybe they have a dog or maybe a neighbor does. So this is a good option because the concepts are all the same about gesture drawing and trying to create an active image that really captivates. It's the same thing. It's just the difference is you're drawing a cute little furry thing this time. And then also, we have so many critique videos. So if you guys want your students to take a look at these, I think online learning is a really great opportunity for discussion, because this is oftentimes the stuff that I would like to give my students in class, but I don't want to take up class time. And so sometimes I'll send it to them in a link, but here's a chance for you to really use that resource as much as you possibly can. Let's see, Matt is saying, I have an assignment due in 1 hour, finishing up now. I wish my prof has to do Sundays at 11:30, not on Fridays. Some students work full time. Exactly. Because if you do Sunday at 11:30 p.m., right, it's like then people have it done and they can just go to bed and start their week. I mean, Friday is sort of evil because Friday is like, that's when it's the end of the week. Everybody's exhausted. You want to go out, you want to do something nice, like I don't know. You got to think about that type of stuff because I think it really does have an impact. Yvonne is saying, do you have preferred programs for conducting group critiques when shifting from in-person teaching to remote? Have you used Zoom or other university programs like Blackboard or Collaborate? All right, I'm going to get to that in a little bit, Yvonne, so just sit tight and I'm going to explain some of those things. Okay, let's move on to tip number 3, which is to use the platforms your students already use, okay? Now, this might, for us, be a little bit more work, but it's going to pay off, okay? This is why. I think that, I'm guessing, I could be wrong, I get the sense from reading a lot of the Facebook posts that teachers are feeling like they need to make a new site to direct their students, but I will tell you guys, don't set up a custom site. Your students will not check it. They just won't. Okay, because I have artprof.org, okay, and I slave over artprof.org. It's a crazy amount of work to keep that site up to date. But artprof.org is not really our main area of engagement with our users. It's really on YouTube. And you know why? It's because everybody watches YouTube all the time. Like, I talked to one of my high school students and I was like, oh, so how many times do you watch YouTube a day? And one of them was like, oh, I just have it on all day. I'm like, what? I'm like, you're kidding. They're like, yeah, I'm like listening to music, or I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm just got this art channel on. And I had no idea that college students spent that much time on YouTube. So if they're like already on YouTube and you put your stuff on YouTube, it is so easy for them to access. But if I say to them, guys, go to artprof.org, that's a pain, okay? Artprof.org does not have an app. Sometimes we are not as on top of it as, say, YouTube. In fact, almost all the time we are not as on top of it. And I just think that you have to recognize that if you make the students go and use some weird site that they have never used before, that is going to cause you more problems because they will have to figure out, oh, how do I log into Zoom? Where are all the things? And that is going to delay the process. Most students know how to navigate YouTube. They already have an account. And so you got to go where they're hanging out. Don't make them come to you because you're going to lose a lot of people. And yes, it's a little bit more work for you, but a lot of these platforms are not that difficult. And also you can just Google, how do I log in? I mean, there's a lot of information out there. Okay, so Matt is saying, same question as Jake. Okay, where's Jake's question? Learned so much, I imagine you got this question, where do I submit my art portfolio for critiquing? So, okay, Jake and also Matt, if you go to artprof.org and you click on art critiques, if you want to purchase one, you have to go to purchase a critique. If you want to submit to get a free live critique, go to art critiques. And if you still don't know, either email us or you guys can post a comment after this video goes live. We will get back to you for sure. Let's see. SK saying, yeah, nobody watches TV anymore. It's all YouTube. It is, exactly. And so if I tell my students, hey, I'm going to do my lecture on YouTube at tomorrow at 10, it is so much more likely that they're going to show up. If I say, oh, download this platform that nobody's ever used, they're not going to do it. It's a pain in the butt. All right. And Lauren is saying this is a very good point. It took us 5 years to figure out where people actually go on the internet. And that is true. It took us a really, really long time. And that's why I'm telling everybody, don't reinvent the wheel. Don't make a custom site. Use YouTube. The students will go there because they're there anyway. It's really, really nice. Let's see. Elisa's saying, I try to get my students to go to Art Prof, and it's like they can't be bothered. Yep. If you put it on YouTube, you'll be even better. Now, here's the other thing I would use Instagram. Okay. So I have actually told my students that for homework assignments, they can submit it and put it in their folder on Google Drive. So I made a folder for each of my students, and they're going to upload their homework assignments that way. However, the other thing I did for their class sessions, because normally we would be in a classroom drawing from a live model and doing all that. We can't do that now. And so what I said to the students is, look, I just want you to draw from life 2 to 3 hours every single week. And whatever you want to draw, that's great. You want to draw your guinea pigs, you want to draw some cats, you want to draw your mom, you want to draw your sister, your friend, whatever, your nephew playing video games, which honestly is a great way to get some figure drawing practice in there. That's wonderful. And so I said to them, look, this is going to be a little more casual. So I now have this hashtag, Prof Lieu. So I said to the students, if you do that live drawing, you want to post it on Instagram and do hashtag Prof Lieu and tag me, I will take a look at it. Whereas if you say to them, oh, email it to me or post it on Blackboard or whatever, they're not going to do it because chances are on Instagram, they're already posting it anyway. They're probably posting those images, and for them to add that hashtag is like 2 seconds. It's just way, way easier. Okay, let's see. EM is saying, I'm concerned my students don't have laptop computers, but they all seem to have phones. That is true. I would also make the assumption that when your students are doing this stuff, they're on a phone because some of them have laptops, but I've noticed that a lot of them don't. And I think it's easier if you just assume the phone is where they're going to look at things. And so that's, again, where the app is better because Instagram is an app. YouTube is an app. Artprof.org is not an app. So it is not a good idea for me to send my students to artprof.org. It's better for me to use YouTube and Instagram. Now, I know for teachers, it's a little bit of a hassle because if you don't know how to use Instagram or YouTube very well, you're going to have to do a little bit of research. But I think it's going to be worth it, guys. It really is, because your students are really going to respond. Because if I email my students, it's like a month goes by. It's like tumbleweeds. And then maybe I'll get a reply. On Instagram, if I DM a student, it's like within an hour, I have a reply. Like, it's a little bit alarming how much we're all on Instagram. But I would just say use these platforms because they're so much easier to use than some of these like Blackboard. Oh yeah, Lauren's saying, as a teacher, my students never checked Blackboard or Moodle or Canvas. Even that's where all my resources and assignments were posted. Yeah, I mean, at RISD, we have this platform called Digication. I've never used it because it was so out of date and it was not as easy to use as Google Drive and all these other platforms. So use the stuff that people are really looking at. Let's see. Oh, Matt, you learned about Artprof through my brother. That's really cool. What a small world we're in. Okay, and Amy's saying our school is using Google Meets. Okay, cool. And all the teachers made Instagrams. Wow, a lot of comments here, guys. I hope I'm not going to get, I'm going to get behind, obviously. But Lauren, you seem like you're helping out a little bit. Okay, and so Lauren's saying, how should one conduct crits on the internet? That's a big struggle point for a lot of teachers in classes. Yes, we're going to get into that a little bit today. However, tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Lauren and I are going to do another stream that is going to focus more on the logistics of different ways you can run critiques. But let me plow through some of this other stuff. Okay, tip number 4, offer more than one platform for communication, okay? Because I'm not saying you got to offer all of these. That would be crazy, okay? You don't want to be posting in 5 different places. However, you don't know the situation that your students are in. For example, I have a lot of international students from China, and Google and Facebook and Instagram, they're banned in China. You can't use them. I mean, I know a lot of students use a VPN, but it's not that reliable. And oftentimes they can't access it. I have a student in Dubai who also does not have access to a lot of these platforms. And so when I traveled to China, I was on WeChat all the time. And WeChat is great. I love WeChat. It's got the coolest emojis. People replied so fast. And so if you can make sure you are communicating to people in more than one place, it really helps a lot. Again, I normally would not bend over backwards the way I am right now, but I think this is very important, okay? So for example, when I talked to my RISD students today, I asked them, I said, where is a good place for us to have group communication? And some people were like, oh, maybe Slack. I was against Slack because Slack, actually, you sort of have to learn it. It's not as intuitive as, say, Instagram messages. And then some people were like, oh, Discord server. And then in the end, we realized, oh my God, everybody wants Instagram messages. I had one student who was not on Instagram, and I said, I will send emails. So basically, I will copy and paste all my stuff. I will send emails and I will send Instagram message. We'll have a class group chat. Okay, so you get yourself covered. Because I don't think it's a good idea, guys, to say, I'm only going to use email for communication. They just don't check their email enough. It's not worth the grief for you to like put your foot down and be like, I'm only going to email you. I really think it's worth it to use these other platforms. I mean, it's a little bit of cutting and pasting, but I mean, what else are you going to do? Okay, let's see. We've got a lot of comments here. Zoom is a new platform, says Pearl, for teachers. Mostly, I think that's what my schools are using. Yep, RISD offered us Zoom. So we have that. And I use Zoom like once or something. But you know something? I talked to my students today. I said, listen, I know RISD is giving us Zoom as an option. And I said to them, how many of you know Zoom and have used it before? Nobody. None of them. It was like blank faces. And I said, okay, how many of you use Skype? All their hands went up. And I said, okay, we're going to do video critiques on Skype. We are not going to do it on Zoom. There's no requirement. I mean, I don't have to use Zoom. I'm sure some people are. But it's like, look at it this way. You could have them use something they already know how to use that's already set up. Or you could say, hey, learn this new platform that you've never used before, and let's start doing all your assignments there. That's a lot harder. And so basically what I'm trying to say is if you do a little bit of extra work, everything will be so much easier. I mean, yeah, I would like to put my foot down about this stuff, but I'm not going to because I don't think that's exactly what we need. Let's see, Glenn in Ink says, website we use is Schoolology, this weird website where you can post discussion and requires comments. Yeah, they're not going to log in. Like if I create a group chat in Instagram, they're all going to be there because they're checking Instagram like all day long. So screw the Moodle, I don't even know what half of these are. Let's see. And Zoom, Lauren says, has this annoying thing where you can only host a meeting for 40 minutes at a time. Oh, that's annoying. I don't think I like that. To my knowledge, Skype does not have a time limit. So anyway, now another thing about communication, there are many ways to do this. However, I am going to be hosting weekly office hours here on YouTube. I have not figured out yet exactly what time I'm going to do it, but I will set a time and I'll say, okay, Friday at this time, I'm going to be on YouTube for 2 hours and you guys just drop in. You want to talk to me? That's great. You want to show me something? That's great. And I'm here anyway. And so even if none of them show up, I got you guys. That's great. So I'm very lucky that I have that ability to do that. Obviously, not every art professor can do that, but I like the idea of my students knowing that every Friday I am available for them. They know if they need to, they can get in touch with me that way. I mean, they can message me anytime they want, but I feel like this really is a nice thing to do. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's not going to be worth my time. I have no idea. We'll see. I'm just going to try it. And that's another thing that I would really recommend you guys do. When you're doing all these things, don't get stuck on wanting to do one thing. Like if you try something and it bombs, scrap it and do something else. It's okay. I cannot tell you how many times we at our prof have done stupid things and then realize, oh, that was dumb. How about let's not do that anymore? And again, your students will understand. They will not think you're an idiot because, chances are they think you're not cool anyway. So who cares? It does not matter. Lahona saying Zoom has a time limit, but the professional model has unlimited time. Oh, good to know. Yeah, at my school, they probably have the professional model. Okay. Jake is saying, I'd love a live about art schools, what they're looking for. Jake, go to our playlist. We have a playlist that's all about art school portfolios. We have Q&A sessions that we ran the past few months. Check that out. We also have a complete art school portfolios guide, which is on the tutorials page of artprof.org. So there should be plenty going on in there. Amy is saying, trying to figure out how to see the whole class, but also critique and talk to them individually. Okay, so here's what I am thinking about doing. So I am going to do video calls with my students to talk about their homework, but I'm going to split them up into small groups, because there was one time for Art Prof, I ran a group staff meeting, and I think there were like 10 people. It was chaos. It was so, and it's like everybody on my staff is awesome and fabulous, but we like could not do it because nobody knew when to talk. And when we did talk, we were walking all over each other. And also some people don't have great internet. And so if you have a couple of people where the connection's a little bit bad, there's like a little lag and it's like really awkward. So I usually have staff calls of like about 6 people, including myself. I find that that's a pretty good number. So teachers, if you are doing these like group critique type things, don't do it with the whole class. I think that's a disaster. Because normally at RISD, when I run a critique, it's with the whole class. Like my class this semester is 16 students, and that's fine. In person, we're great. But on a video call, it's going to be a mess. So I would say do the video calls. And then Amy, to answer your question, what I have told the students is we will have 2 forms of critique. We will do the video calls in small groups, 4 to 6 students. And then for their classwork, like the 2 hours of life drawing that I want them to do every week, I send them an audio recording. So they hashtag Prof Lieu, put it on Instagram or Google Drive, again, giving them options, different ways they can get me stuff, because not everything's convenient for everybody. And then I just record on my phone. I say like 10 minutes of critique. I send them the audio file and boom, I'm done. So that's what I'm trying to do. Audio files for single student feedback, video calls for 4 to 6 people. And I feel like that will work out pretty well. Yeah, adjunct teachers are the best. I really like you, Amy. That's fabulous. Okay, so tip number 5 is to be flexible and accept substitutions. You know when you're cooking something like broccoli and shrimp stir fry, and you're like, I don't have any shrimp. Oh wait, I have chicken. I'll just use chicken instead. It's sort of like that, okay? I have told my students, because some of them might live in remote areas that don't have lots of art stores, I've said to them, your homework, I will give you the prompt, but you are going to use whatever you want to make it. Any drawing supply. And if it means 1 pencil and a sheet of crappy copy paper, you can do that. I told them it's fine. I mean, if they want to use fancier stuff, that's good too. But I would just say be really, really flexible with the students, because you don't know what they have access to. And so I'm saying to them, it's fine. If you want to do ballpoint pen, that's fine. Normally in my RISD assignments, I'm extremely specific. Like I'll say, I want you to use these crayons on black mat board, 24 inches by 36 inches. Here's the prompt. Not the case anymore. This is a really different situation. We really have to be accommodating to people in completely different circumstances, because you also have to remember, those of you who are teaching, if you're teaching college, for some students, school is a safer place for them. There's a lot of students who I think are in really tough places right now. Some of them are in countries, some of them are from countries that are really affected. There's a lot of kids going home is tougher. And for some of them, they have family issues or other concerns. And so I think we have to be very sensitive that not everybody wants to go home. I think that that's not a good thing to assume. And I also said to my students, listen, if there's anything going on that you need me to know about, number 1 is confidential. Number 2, tell me and I will accommodate you, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now, guys, and we really need to help out the students. Let's see. Eloise is saying, any tips for people struggling to teach classes that require equipment, sculpture, jewelry, metalsmithing? Yes. Okay. I'm about to get into that right now. That was perfect timing. So here's an example. We have this character design tutorials playlist, which is super fun. And this is a tutorial that Kat Wong does where she does like a pencil sketch and then she does Photoshop and all this inking and everything. It's like really, really cool. I feel like I saw something about Adobe helping out with free subscriptions, but maybe that was a dream I had. I have no idea. That's what I think they should do. But anyway, because not everybody has the same software, you can take this tutorial and say, guys, let's do this with markers. So instead of using Photoshop, let's just color with whatever markers you want, or you can color it with Crayola crayons. And it's still the same concept. It's still character design. I mean, I know some teachers teach very specific classes. And so here's another option. Like if you teach 3D design, this is a chipboard sculpture that I have students make. And typically I do like them to have chipboard because it's a lot better. I like them to have retractable utility knives, but not everybody has that. So picture this. Walk around your house and say, what do I have a lot of that is inexpensive that I could use to make this project? This is a fun project because what it is you base it on two different sides of your personality. And so the sculpture is a visual abstraction of a side of your personality. And so I looked at this and I was like, hey, look at this. Actually, I have this on my desk right now. Like, you guys could totally take these styrofoam cups and cut these up and make this sculpture. And you could use, like, I don't know, you could probably use aluminum foil. There's a lot of things you could use. Paper plates. You could use toilet paper tubes. And so you can take the same lesson plan, but just substitute out the material or make it smaller. Or let's say instead of a quill pen, you use a ballpoint pen. And so that's, again, what I was saying earlier about accept substitutions. So the project may not be exactly what you intend, but I think if it gets close, that really is good enough. Let's see. Tammy's saying, consider myself student art prof. How I learn from you all, appreciate it so much. Having this online community is very cool. I know, I love you guys. I mean, that's why I feel like I really know our audience, because I was looking at some of these other platforms, you know, these ones where they're like, we have 50,000 classes and 800 teachers. And I'm like, great, but we don't know any of them and there's no personal connection. And I feel like I really know you guys. Let's see. Elisa is saying restriction and limiting palettes is the best way to be creative. It's one way, I mean, for sure. Yeah, Nelson, I know it's not eco-friendly. I know, I feel really bad sometimes, but there's a lot of things on the planet which are not. And then another thing with the chipboard sculpture is, I mean, I'm sure people have crummy corrugated boxes lying around. And so I would just say to people, look around and see what you have. I mean, I have this other project that I've done, which is based on like a recycled book. I mean, I'm not telling you to go cut up your books, but let's say you've got some book and you know you're never going to look at it again, or you got your old New Yorker magazines and you want to make a collage. So really, there's a lot of stuff around your house that you can use that is not excessively expensive as substitutes. Matt is saying, third year art program. Fellow students often very frustrated when professors gave no wiggle room or were very strict about supplies. See, Matt, most of the time I am sort of strict about it. Although I do tell students, listen, if you're really having a problem, like a financial one, and you can't afford things, you can definitely come talk to me. However, I will say I think about my materials list a lot, and I'm very specific. Like, you guys know that thing called a chamois cloth? It's like a animal skin thing, maybe not for real, but it costs like $8. And people use it to like smudge Vine charcoal. I'm like, guys, just use a paper towel. You don't need an $8 chamois. It's really fine. So I guess, Matt, I would hope that teachers would spend that time like thinking through, hey, do they really need to buy an $8 chamois? I do really try to do that. So most of the time when I ask students to buy things, they actually really need them. And I am very clear about like, look, you really don't need this. Because a lot of students look at my supply list. They go, oh, none of the professors really think this through. I don't need to buy half this stuff. And then they come to my class, like, I can't do anything. I'm like, yeah, because you didn't buy the stuff on the list. So I get it. I definitely had that experience myself. But I think, yeah, it's frustrating. I definitely was in that situation as well. Puck Puck is saying, recommend for classes that require specific tools, we prioritize concept over material. I think so. I mean, I have lots of prompts for my drawing class at RISD, And some of them I'm like, okay, I really want you to work with light and shadow and charcoal. We can't do that anymore. And so I'm trying to pivot the projects. I mean, I teach in illustration, so I'm making them more about the illustration concept, and they are sort of on their own in terms of materials. But that's okay. I mean, that really is fine, you guys. Let's see. Matt is saying, Prof made us mount and cover all our drawings, deducted marks for poor presentation. Students couldn't afford purchasing the new board. Yeah, that's excessive. I would never ask people to do that because that's really, really expensive. Sheesh. Yeah, not fun at all. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you will explore artprof.org. We have a lot of content there for you guys to take a look at. Artprof.org is entirely free, so feel free, explore, see what you guys have, and we hope you will join the Art Prof family and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can continue to grow as an artist and as a teacher. And thank you so much to our top Patreon supporters who keep Art Prof up and running. Thank you to all of you who contributed to the stream and the discussion. And if any of you watching this, you have suggestions for art teachers how to teach art remotely, leave us a comment in the video later on so we can really group together and get all of this stuff. I think that this is a trying time, but I think what I've been very inspired by is people really rising to the occasion, and really we're all in the same boat together. We're all doing the best we can. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you next time. Bye.